Hi folks, Doc here. It's been a bit since I turned out a video, and for that I apologize. I'm intending to get on a video a week schedule, and that kind of took a bit of a header. Technology kicked my butt not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row. Get a load of this. Plugging away, doing my thing, and the hard drive on my laptop took a dive. It went down for the count, unrecoverable, blah, 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 blah. I saw it coming. And when I did my little 12 Days of Christmas video, that's kind of the duct tape together PC thing I was making reference to. It's been going for a while. I expected it. I did back up most of my work. I saved it. So that's okay. But it really didn't do me any favors as far as making videos. So that being said, I grabbed the wife's laptop and, start bombing software and things onto it. And, no sooner did I do that, but my satellite took a dive, and it's satellite that I use for internet. So I had to wait several days for a technician to come out. He looked at things and originally told me I had a tree branch in my way, which is like this tree branch grew overnight and sproing got in the way of the signal, apparently. After further investigation, he discovered that the little gizmo on the end of the arm where the dish is had gone bad, and he replaced that little gizmo. And he replaced that little gizmo, and I thought, fantastic, I'm back online, I can get back into things. And that was good for about 10 minutes, and my router crapped out. So, to recap, working on the wife's laptop, had the satellite system repaired, and replaced my router. And I am back online, I'm back in business, and I can start doing all kinds of videos and goodness again. You have seen me online, and that's been primarily through my phone, because that's all I've been able to do, and it is infuriating. 41-year-old fingers and little touchscreen phone thingies don't work out well. So, onward and outward. Today, we're going to discuss the 2015 All-Terrain Lawn Tractor Forum build-off rules, and hopefully I'm going to clarify them for you, so that you know what you're up against, and you know if you're going to be able to qualify and what it is you can and cannot build. Let's go on with that. Okay, fantastic. So I've got some notes in front of me here, and I'm just going to read through the rules one by one, and I'm going to put them up on the screen for you to read while I'm reading them to you. Some people find that helps with comprehension. And don't forget that as we go along, at any point you can visit the All-Terrain Lawn Tractor Forum and see the rules and view the rules and peruse the rules. And, as always, my door's open to questions. Hit me up, PM me on Facebook, whatever the case may be, that's fine. Okay. Rule number 1. Must be a small personal transportation type vehicle capable of carrying operator and not more than 1 additional passenger. I think that's pretty straightforward here. We're looking not to build buses and stuff like that. So operator and up to 1 passenger. So it can be a 2-seater. If somebody wants to make something that can carry, say, 2 passengers or 3 passengers, we might even be able to grant an exception under the rules. I mean, keep in mind that all these rules are subject to an administrator's approval. So there is a little bit of flexibility. We just want to try and stay within some realm of what the objective is. So just bear that in mind. Rule number 2, must be self-propelled. Do I have to explain further? Probably not, but if you're building a sled that has to be towed behind something else, no, that is not a suitable all-terrain lawn tractor something. Yeah, just not going to happen. So it must be self-propelled. What that basically means is, in order to qualify as a completed build, it's got to drive under its own power. You can't say, well, I still haven't picked up that build, blah, 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 blah. No, it's got to be self-propelled. Rule number 3. This is going to take some explanation. This is where things start getting a little bit more detailed. In the end, it's actually quite simple. Must be powered by an OPE type engine, that's outdoor power equipment, 1 or 2 cylinders, 2 or 4 stroke, gas or diesel, air-cooled, we'll get back to that, horizontal or vertical shaft derived from lawn mowers, leaf blowers, lawn, yard, and garden tractors, pressure washers, portable generators, tillers, cement mixers, weed eaters, leaf mulchers, vacuums, water pumps, etc. So this is an engine that basically comes from yard and garden equipment. Now, there are a few liquid-cooled outdoor power equipment engines out there, such as offerings from Honda and Kawasaki. As long as it fits the above OPE description, it is allowed, but limited to 2 cylinders. Keep that in mind. That is a critical point. We are limiting you to 2 cylinders. Now, that said, more than one qualifying engine may be used. So if you've got 3 Briggs & Stratton V-twins that you think you can get scabbed onto this puppy and make it roll, by all means do it. We aren't stopping you. Just each individual engine has to fall under, the above category. Rule number 4, chassis. This is another important point here. And again, keep in mind that all builds are subject to approval by an administrator. There is a little bit of flexibility. If you have any questions, talk to us, and we'll see what we can do. We'll work with you. Rule number 4, no automobile, truck, SUV, etc. chassis allowed. No ATV chassis nor compact tractor. Allowed are lawn, yard, and garden tractor and mini chassis, stock or modified. Custom-built chassis are allowed, provided the end result be resemblant of a lawn or garden tractor chassis in appearance. I'll explain that more in a second. Specifically, ladder, tunnel, or pan style, no space frames. Okay, so what this basically comes down to is we don't want somebody taking, an old flat fender Jeep and stripping half the body off and, calling it an off-road mower. That's not going to happen. This is why automobile chassis are just simply not going to be allowed. No ATV chassis are allowed, so we don't want you, stripping some plastic off your Yamaha Blaster and calling that a modified lawn tractor. That's not going to cut it either. Compact tractor chassis. If you've been through my videos, I did show you that Yanmar I picked up last year. That is a compact tractor, and it goes beyond lawn and garden tractor. Insofar as the chassis more or less consists of the engine bolted to the transmission, bolted to the differential, bolted to this, bolted to that, and the chassis really is the driveline all bolted together. That's a compact tractor. It's basically a scaled down version of a large industrial or agricultural tractor, and we're not going to allow that either. So getting back to the allowable chassis types, ladder, tunnel, or pan style. Now, a ladder frame is basically picture 2 rails with cross members. That's a ladder frame. That can be expanded upon, but that is basically a ladder frame. And a lot of lawn, yard, and garden tractors do have ladder frames. Cubkit has come to mind for one. There's many. Tunnel and pan style are your more typical lawn tractor chassis, and I don't think I need to go into a hell of a lot of detail explaining that. Those are allowed. If you want to make a custom chassis, if you just have a pile of steel tube and plate and whatever, and you want to build your own chassis, by all means do it. But it must be a ladder type, a pan type, or a tunnel type. And that's what that all comes down to. So it's actually pretty straightforward despite all the lengthy wording. Okay, rule 5. Must run on any number of wheels, tracks, skis, or any combination of these limited by the following constraint. A minimum of 3 points of contact must be made with the ground, a minimum of 2 if the vehicle is tracked. Points of contact are defined as wheels, tracks, or skis. Basically speaking, your typical all-terrain lawn tractor, racer, mower build would have 4 wheels. We are not limiting you to just 4 wheels. If you want to make something that's going to be killer in the snow, for example, and you decide you want 2 wheels and skis, that's cool. If you decide you want a couple of tracks and some skis, that's cool, or like a half track with a couple of tracks and a couple of wheels, that's cool too. We want a minimum of 3 points of contact with the ground to eliminate bikes, basically. Bikes are just simply not allowed in this build, and that is that. A trike theoretically would be allowable, and we would allow that. We just don't want to get as far out of the league as bikes. The exception to the 3 points of contact with the ground rule is tracked vehicles. If you want to make a personal tracked vehicle, a little tank, whatever the hell looking thing, fantastic, that is allowable. 6. Okay. These are the completion rules. These are the rules that dictate whether you are done at the end of the contest or before the end of the contest, and therefore, qualifying to be voted upon as a potential winner. Must be complete by contest deadline date. For our purposes, complete means starts, runs, and drives under its own power. I think that's pretty straightforward. I don't know if that needs any further explanation, but starts, runs, and drives under its own power. It's pretty straightforward. You turn the key or push the button or pull the thing or whatever the hell and drive away, and that's all good. No further effort is required. You're not towing it with something or hooking up booster cables or whatever the case may be. Remote throttle must be installed and operable without operator touching engine. That basically means, you know, for the sake of safety, we don't want you leaning onto the carburetor and, you know, tickling the thing trying to drive. Remote kill switch must be installed and operable without operator touching engine. Same thing, it's a safety rule. We don't want you trying to pull spark plug wires off or, you know, choke the damn thing out before you hit that fence. It's a safety rule, and it is there to define completeness. Remote starter must be installed and operable without operator touching engine. This applies to electric start only. Pull starting is acceptable. So once again, basically the same thing. For the purposes of starting the engine, we don't want you dancing around with a screwdriver or trying to jump or something, or, you know, go crazy and potentially zap yourself to death. You are allowed to touch the engine in the case of a pull start. That's pretty straightforward, and it is safe. Braking system must be installed and functional. At some point in the process, we would of course much prefer to see your results in video, and I mean the thing's going to have to stop, and that again is a safety rule. Nothing kills a good time faster than a trip to the ER, so some of these rules are designed around safety. Steering system must be installed and functional. Same thing, no further explanation required. You've got to be able to steer. Just for clarification, the purpose of this rule is not only to define completeness for the contest, but to help ensure safety. Now, paint and related aesthetic touches are not mandatory to qualify as complete, but may affect scoring. For clarification, remote specifically means the ability to operate without touching engine. And we've basically gone over all of that already as far as the remote start and remote kill and all that stuff. It doesn't mean that you have to go out and buy a little keychain remote gizmo that would start the thing, although that would be cool and I'd love to see somebody do that. I've even been thinking about it. It can be done. But as far as, you know, paint and fancy stuff like that, they are not required to call your build complete. We realize that paint is pretty much the last thing to be done in most cases, and if you run a little bit short of time on paint, that's cool. We're not going to hold you to it. When folks are voting upon the completed builds, they might take that into consideration though, so just keep that in mind. 7. Sheet metal and bodywork is open. As long as all other rules are adhered to, the vehicle may take any vehicular appearance. And folks, I'm going to be the first to tell you that we were a little bit late releasing the rules to you, because that's one that was being deliberated heavily amongst the administrators of the forum. And, you know, there are some that feel that it must look like a lawn tractor, and there are those of us that feel that, you know, as long as the OPE rules are stuck to and everything else is in place, that you should be able to explore your creativity as far as bodywork goes. Ultimately, that is the decision that was made. So at the end of the day, it can look like anything. If you want it to look like the Beatles' Yellow Submarine, knock yourself out. If you want your lawn tractor to look like an airplane, fantastic. Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, knock yourself out. I'll bring the mustard. Okay, so the qualification rule, as far as whether you can enter your existing project, is rule number 8. Must not be more than 50% completed prior to the official start date. Previously completed builds or lightly modified builds for the contest will not qualify. As part of qualification, contest entrants will post a picture of the major parts sources, including a sign showing the commencement date and the code word. The password, the code word, will be released at the time the contest starts. So to clarify this whole 50% done thing, this is basically designed to prevent somebody from throwing a coat of paint and a set of fresh tires on their mower and calling it, you know, a build-off entry, because that's really not fair to the people that are actually putting some work, time, effort, skills, parts, money into their builds. That just, we've got to level the playing field somehow, and the best way that we can think of doing it is suggesting that you have to have some work ahead of you. So because this 50% thing is very subjective, what is 50% to some is not 50% to others. Basically, at the start of the contest, you are going to enter, and you'll follow the entry protocol, and that'll be explained later. And the administrators of the All-Terrain Lawn Tractor Forum will go over what you have put forth, and decide if you've really got something good ahead of you, or if you're just gonna change the clutch on your mower and call it a build, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So The idea being, the best thing that you can do is when you present your entry, when you enter, put up the required pictures and write a quick little explanation on what you have ahead of you. I want you to sell me on it. I want you to convince me that you have got a retarded amount of work ahead of you, and that's your best way of getting into that. And finally, who can enter? Entrants must hold a valid ATLTF membership in good standing. Entrants may join ATLTF in order to qualify. And entrants must maintain their ATLTF membership in good standing for the duration of the contest. I'd just like to take this moment to remind you that despite my strong appearance on several Facebook pages that are related to this topic, it is in fact a competition hosted by the All-Terrain Lawn Tractor Forum, to promote, to drive membership, drive awareness, and just generally be a cool thing. But because it is hosted by the All-Terrain Lawn Tractor Forum, you do need to be a member there. You can join up to do that, and your progress must be posted there. Lastly, you may enter more than one project for the contest, and that's pretty straightforward. If you think you can get 3 projects done in the allotted period of time, by all means. So I think that pretty much squares away all the legal mumbo-jumbo. I hope that that's clarified things for you. Like I said, despite the lengthy wording, the rules are pretty simple and straightforward. And the purpose of a lot of them is not so much to constrain what you do, just to help try and keep the playing field kind of level. If we were to allow completely open builds that had little, if anything, to do with a lawn tractor, for example, basically it would be a 1 or 2 horse show. We want to be able to have pretty much any halfway capable DIY guy with a grinder and a set of wrenches to be able to successfully complete in this build and get a couple of votes. The outdoor power equipment engine rule is probably the biggest rule designed to help enforce that. As much as somebody might say, okay, well, I've got a supercharged 1100cc GSXR engine, with an updated camshaft, blah, 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 blah. That's all fine and wonderful. But then you start getting into some really freaky deaky crap. And if somebody comes along with, a $20,000 budget and a ridiculous amount of engine and, just takes it from the ridiculous to the sublime, it's going to be a 1-horse show, and we don't want that. We don't want one guy just coming in with something so ridiculous, that the rest of you look at it and go, screw it, I can't do this. I'm not going to win. I'm not even going to place. It's not worth the effort. So I know that there have been some complaints already about the engine type constraint, and I'm afraid we're not going to change that. We need to try and keep the playing field level somehow. And since we cannot reasonably put a dollar limit on your builds, like there's just no way to prove or disprove what you spent. Somebody could say, oh, I got this Lamborghini engine for free. Since there's no way at all to enforce a dollar value or a budget, we've had to write some of the rules to try and create a couple of constraints to level the playing field. So remember, the All-Terrain Lawn Tractor Forum 2015 Build Off Competition is fixing to kick off February 1st on the All-Terrain Lawn Tractor Forum. That's ATLTF.com. And until next time, thank you for tuning in, watching, subscribing, sharing. It's good. Later.